Hello, everyone. I'm back. I'm E. Jean, and I am the founder of Enda's Boutique, located in Duncanville, Texas. And I have back with me Mr. Charles Moore. Welcome back from New York. Can you
Hey,
hear?
happy to be here.
All
How are
right,
you?
we got you. Good deal. So we are continuing our series on Black art, and as you know, I already did an interview with Charles to talk about the book that he has. So, which is in the background. The title of the book is The Black Market, a guide to art collecting. And we have this book in our bookstore. So make sure you come by and pick up this book. This is a very good book on teaching us and developing our taste buds as it relates to being, just being followers and fans of Black art. We talked earlier, and Charles, welcome back. Thank you for having us. I'm just going on and on and on and on. I'm not even giving you a chance to say something. How are you doing? Let's start with
I'm
that.
doing well. I'm doing well.
We've been talking earlier, so that I'm just moving forward with the conversation. But of course, people didn't know that. So let me go ahead and do my protocols with that. So, of course, how's everything going in New York with the weather? Let's talk about that. You good?
The weather is great. It's starting to look like spring a little bit. I hope it holds up. Today it's like a high of 50 and sunny, and
Oh, that's
you
nice.
know, I, I wore my Canada Goose unnecessarily. So I'm hoping we can keep this weather going.
All right. So I have you back, and it's so good to have you back. And we're doing this series for the next couple of months. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this series is because for me, as a curator of books and as the owner of an African American bookstore, I wanted to also expand our curation from not just books, but we wanted to also, as people come in and say, "Hey, do you have Black art?" We do have art um, on the walls, but not for sale, and this because, of course, a person who has, I had a radio station and just different things and studio set up, and I wanted to have images that were images that I could connect to, and people who I serve in my community can relate to and connect to. So I've collected art over the years, but more recently, my ear has been tuned to get more involved and engaged in art collection and really connect to people who put together artwork.
Okay.
So recently there was a documentary that was released, and put that on if somebody's coming in. Yes, sir. So he's at the student center. So if y'all see him with his mask on, he's being very, very safe. But recently HBO released a documentary titled Black Art in the Absence of Light. And it was inspired by the late David Driscoll, his exhibits that was in 1976. And I got a chance to watch the documentary, and we'll talk more about that over a period of time. The importance of that documentary and what David Driscoll brought into the mainstream as it relates to Black art. And of course, Black art has existed before David Driscoll, but what he did was create a platform in the 1970s to give an opportunity for artists to be able to display their art. And so what we want to do is, continue that, that discussion and that narrative, because as African Americans, as authors, as artists, and even as musicians, the challenges of our platform is getting into mainstream media, getting the type of accolades and appreciation for the contributions that we bring into, the literary world, the world of art, the world of theater. And so let's talk a little bit about David Driscoll and some of those individuals who have historically allowed us, who have historically positioned our artists to be able to have that kind of a platform.
Yeah, so I think, David Driscoll did a phenomenal job at things like not only highlighting artists, but also highlighting things like the art collector. Historically, you look at
Right.
certain narratives when it came time for, you know, talent in the Black community. Like you can even go into music and sports. We're often the talent, and we're not the owner of the material. And so like in the world of art, how does that work? Normally you have a talented artist, and then the art collector doesn't look like that artist. And
Right.
David Sco, first and foremost, I think he did a phenomenal job at like making sure we highlighted those individuals um, who supported those artists in the beginning, middle, and even the ends of their careers,
Right.
so they could have a long career. When you look at artists like Ed Clark, who painted for 6 decades, you materials cost money. Being able to focus on the art and not have to go punch a clock, that
Right.
costs
Exactly.
money. Allowing yourself to the freedom to be creative, to create,
Mhm.
that costs money. Time is money. And I think certain things like highlighting the entire ecosystem, the people who were the galleries that show these artists, the collectors who supported and collected these artists.
Mhm.
Without those other two parts, the artists, how can they have a lengthy career?
When I was watching the documentary, and um, one of the things that they talked about is how HBCUs played an important role in cultivating artists and being a place where the work could be presented and supported and recognized, because of course, um, there was a time period where our art wasn't appreciated. It wasn't, artists weren't able to display their artwork, or being able to wasn't even received as a serious artist, which is interesting, of course, how race and color just plays such a ridiculous role in discriminating against the very skill sets of what we present to people. And so HBCUs was a platform that was used, right, to allow people to be able to display their gifts and their talents, and even to be able to cultivate uh, their abilities to present quality work, on canvases, and just not just even paintings, but just being able to be able to express themselves in so many different ways. When I saw the HBO movie, and I'm not going to talk about it yet because some people might not have seen it yet, so I don't want to
Right,
spoil it for anyone.
right,
But I'm
right,
recommending, by the time you and I get back together next month, that you please watch the documentary, because I really want to talk a lot about some of the people that they mentioned in the documentary and
right,
the different ways they presented art, which was great. But I was appreciative how they reflected back on the support system HBCU offered,
right.
because there weren't oftentimes a way to do that. There's a school out there in your area that was mentioned. You want to talk a little bit about that school and well, the museum, and how they have a residency there that some of your famous artists, some of our famous Black artists came through and were able to
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
benefit from that.
yeah. I think when we talk about like building our own and starting our own, and things like that, there's always levels to it, and without resources, you're unable to reach a certain level. And the Studio Museum in Harlem is one of, I would say it's the most prestigious museum in the country that is focused on contemporary art from African American and other artists from the African diaspora. You have like the National Museum
Mhm.
of African American History and Culture in DC, but I wouldn't consider that in the same niche category as the Studio Museum of Harlem, which is
Mhm.
a collecting museum, exhibiting museum, and then they also have an artist residency.
Right.
And one of the most prestigious things is to be accepted into that artist residency. And when I've talked to other artists, artist friends of mine who have had the benefit of being an artist in resident in somewhere, you know, they talk about what's the most important thing, and that's really like how they support the artists. Are they providing them reliable critique of the work? Because with critique of the work, then you can get better. And if you don't have professional critique of the work, access to that is very important, because if there's certain things about your technique that needs to be improved or worked on, then the critique is super important. But
Right.
also, like, being in the face of collectors and, having FaceTime with collectors and being able to discuss your work. And the more prominent the collector, the more resources they have. So that means they may start off buying your work when you're an artist in resident, but then they might continue to collect your work throughout your career and support
Right.
your work. And then also displaying at the museum. That's really a huge notch on an artist's belt, so to speak, when they can either be displayed by a major museum or collected, or both, by a museum. That's something that they end up putting on their CV as, an important marker.
Yeah.
So that's the Studio Museum.
Right. And as you was talking, one of the things that as I spoke about how I felt the importance of collecting Black art with Black faces to represent who I am, and also to be able to connect my family, my children, my next generation, and people who come in to see who we are. We think about the need for that, but there is a bigger connection. It's the person who's actually creating those illustrations. It's the person who's putting their hard work and their, creativity into that work. And I think all of us could do a better job of not just collecting the art, but also giving that type of love to the person who has, made that commitment to put Black faces on canvases and
Right.
Create those kind of narratives, even those who are illustrators for books. I just earlier got a chance to interview someone who has a book for children, and the illustrator did an amazing job of doing that. And so we have not just the responsibility of collecting Black art, but we also have a responsibility of, just like an athlete, just like a person who is a musician, we need to give them that type of platform because they have to eat, right? They have to pay their bills.
Right.
And I think supporting them financially is great, but giving them that kind of love and platform, taking them to the next level, also increases their value and their respect, not just in our community, but in communities abroad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, I talk to a lot of collectors, and, I'm not an art advisor,
Right.
but because I wrote this book, I ended up speaking to a number of collectors, and I'm still talking to collectors. And one of the things that they've always said was very important to them was seeing themselves in the images on their wall. So they wanted to see portraits of Black faces and Black figures, male and female, strong and weak and vulnerable. But and then you have all sorts of artists like Derek Adams, for example, who I think almost always is painting the black portrait in a way that reminds us that we are more the same than we are different. And Black people enjoy swimming. Black people enjoy having their family over for, watching film and fellowship and all sorts of things. And so in his work, he almost always is painting the Black person in this positive manner, because in his view, he figured that the people who are collecting his work, they work hard, and when they come home, they don't want to see trauma. They want to see happiness, and they want to see beauty, and they want to see, images of their community in a lovely way.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're just not joining us, and this is part 2 of a series that I am committing to giving exposure and discussing the importance of Black art and what Black art brings to our community. What launched me to do this is Mr. Moore himself. He reached out to our bookstore the later part of 2020. And, it was all kinds of stuff going on. And I just, hey, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. Let's connect, let's do this. And so very patient as he is and has been, we were able to put him into rotation of our book. So we do have his book here. I'm encouraging people to come and purchase this book. This is a good book to start you and to whet your appetite into Black art collection. I like this book because, again, what it does is it creates the understanding and the importance it provides, let me say that, an understanding and the importance of Black arts in our community. And what it did for me, I'll say, is, it's really placed me in a different kind of mindset of my role and responsibility as a person who has a bookstore. But not even just that, but even a person who loves to find Black art, Black faces on canvases, and just make sure those pieces are in place at my home, at my bookstore, it's wherever I'm located. But more recently is to create a platform like I'm doing for authors, supporting and bringing about those names and making sure those names are spoken. Just like, music,
Right.
we can name off the top of our head probably 10 Black musicians or athletes that we follow consistently and have Black art in our home and not even know who is the person that created
Absolutely.
this wonderful portrait. And I'm guilty of that. I have Black art in my home. I have no idea each person, I just recently, I saw the documentary and I was like, you know what? Okay, this person actually did this. And what I haven't done is find my research and truly giving them the support. I mean, yes,
Right.
I purchased the canvas. Yes, I purchased the Black art, but I did it not even thinking about this is a person who did this. I
Right.
did it for the sake of, I wanted this type of art in my space, but I didn't consider the fact of the person who actually took the
Their
time
heart
to
and
put
soul
this,
into it.
the heart and soul,
Yeah.
And so um, when I saw the documentary and Swiss Beats was in it, I was like, oh my God, he's like on point with this. And how he not just owned the job of putting the art there, but also making sure that the person who created this, that their information, the message is out there as well. It's inclusive for that. So I love it so much. If you are an artist, or if you know of an artist, I want you to reach out to me because I definitely, like I said, I want our bookstore to be a support system and not just a system, but a platform, create that platform for Black arts to give you an opportunity to talk about the work that you do, your history, your background, and see what we can do to put that art here in our bookstore and get it out there into the hands of people. That's what we want to do. So that's really, really important. If you're watching, make sure you like this. If you're on YouTube watching this, give us thumbs up, put your comments, make some comments in the comments section. Of course, it's Facebook as well. I have Charles Moore, who is working on his PhD. And where college are you located? University?
I'm at Columbia University in New
That's
York
right.
City.
That's
Yeah.
right. In Columbia. And so he's, and so you are working on your doctorate in what field? Field of study.
Art and museum studies.
Yes.
And
So
so I'm going to actually write my dissertation on an artist, Black artist, abstract expressionist named Ed Clark, who just
yes,
recently passed late 2019.
right, right. And like you said, the abstract, all of that.
Right.
One of the things that I am going to do also is put a list together of Black museums, or museums that are, of course, that are located throughout the United States. I would say I'm not going to say it's an exhaustive list. I'm going to do my best to put a list together, or I'm sure a list exists, at least from our websites, for people to a list where they can get that information as relates to that, and we could be more supportive of that. When I was watching the documentary, it talked about supporting the museums, putting funds in place because museums need money to be able to survive and to stay alive and to thrive. We don't even want them just to survive, we want them to thrive. But also, I will encourage our African American churches to get out there and do field trips. Take your youth and your
Absolutely.
children to these museums. Now, you know,
Wow. That's I think that might be the most powerful thing
that I
you
said
said
today, right?
today. Yeah,
Right, right.
that's wow.
I'm a minister, so
Wow.
I always like to put us on
I
hello.
never thought of that.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah.
That's
And
incredible.
I'm
Yeah.
not putting us on blast. I'm putting us on the hello. It's such a simple thing that can be done. Now, I know COVID-19 is going on, and we doing other stuff, but we've got to be able to walk
You
and chew
can
at the
just
same time.
take one
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
and
That's what I'm
go
saying.
get smart.
We have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm
Right.
just saying, you know, we
Right.
can't just be so tunnel vision. We've got to, because again, we have the means to do this, but all of these mega churches we have, there is no reason why these churches should, their youth department they should not support that by taking their children and their youth to African American museums in your
That's so
area and
important.
do that field trip. It's not
And
even, it's not
galleries,
complicated.
Black-owned
And
galleries.
Black-owned galleries, exactly.
Yeah.
We talk about supporting Black-owned businesses. You know, it's not complicated. It's not, Black-owned businesses should not struggle whether mega churches exist. I'm just trying to say. I've said, unless, you know, of course, your stuff is ragged. That's a whole nother conversation. But if you have a Black-owned business that's got their ABCDs lined up, and you know they're truly genuine about the community, African American churches, big and small, you know, because I'm not going to even say just mega churches, even your smaller churches, truly we need to give back to our community and expose our children, because that's one of the things I heard in the HBO special is how, and you talk about that, parents exposing their kids to the art, and that's what whets their appetite as far as getting, you know, more involved and engaged in either their own personal talents or being more connected to the talent of art, is because their parents expose them to that. And this
Right.
is a perfect way of doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's very important to expose them early because, you know, you're at your most influential stage in life where whatever you were exposed to, good or bad, will shape the way you view the world in some way. And if you're exposed to art at a young age, I did a research study at the Whitney Museum, and I surveyed with a team of two other assistants, and we surveyed 150 museum visitors only in 2 days at the Whitney Museum, and only 9 of the 150 were Black. And but every single one of them, like 90 something percent of the individuals we surveyed had exposure to art before the age of 10,
Wow.
including the 9 Black individuals that were present
Wow.
in those 2 days. And so when you look at things like that, and you also look at the fact that museums across the country have so few Black visitors, then it's only it's going to be a snowball effect that
Right.
when they become adults, they're going to be part of the 9 out of 150, as opposed to being maybe part of the 50 out of 150.
Right. Right.
You know, which is more, you know, what those numbers should be. You look
Exactly.
at, you know, places like Detroit, which is the highest percentage of Black people in a metropolitan area. 83% of Detroit, Michigan identifies as Black. And the most prestigious museum in the city, Detroit Institute of Art, which is a beautiful museum, has about 5% of their visitorship identifies as Black. And
Yeah, we have to fix that. What's
yeah,
wrong? Come on,
yeah.
let's work this out. If you have a daycare, okay, you know, I'm
Field
all about.
trips are so important. Sometimes that's the first exposure to art
Right.
museums is on the field trip. And
Yes.
those programs don't exist in the Black community. But you know, as a parent, you know, we can't put the onus on the system.
I agree.
We can't always put the onus on the community. Like
I
we have
agree.
to and sometimes as a friend of someone, if you're going to the museum, call your friend up,
Right,
bring
right.
your friend, and
Yeah.
it,
And
and
yeah,
expose your friends, and if you're like having play dates, you got a friend with a 7-year-old kid, y'all go to the museum that day.
exactly. Exactly. And I'm glad you said that. And I know we have now COVID COVID has created some challenges even for the museums because
Right.
it
Right.
used to be just open where you can kind of go in. Some
Now
places
you
you had
got
to,
an RSVP, and if you
right.
did, they don't let you in.
So, but get over it, you know, make it
Right.
happen. Don't use excuses. If the museums are open, find a way to get your child, your young people out there to the museums and provide the support. We don't want to make excuses because guess what? If you go out to eat, you can go to the museum. Okay, so I'm just saying, if you can go to a restaurant, if you go shopping in Club Walmart, you can go to the
And you
museum. Okay,
probably are able to socially distance even greater at a
right,
museum because you're not sitting next to someone at a table
right.
and no one's handling your food.
Exactly. So there is a way to do it. When I'm talking and I'm asking people to get out there and do that, and I'm speaking as I'm putting me in that box as well. We could do a better job. I know I've taken my children to different museums, African American Museum we have here in Dallas, and a couple of other museums. You know, because I just like you said, the exposure is so very, very important. And sometimes we can be so busy uh, trying to stay alive and survive. And I
Right.
understand the plight and the situation, but I think the more that we try to live and be engaged with different aspects of our community, uh, you know, I was just telling someone when I was on the phone with them, the more we get up and start doing things, the more we start doing things. You know, the more we
Right.
become more
Right.
connected, the more we become more creative, and the challenges of life shifts a little bit. Your perspective in life changes when you become more exposed to different things, especially for art. You know, I
Right.
love art. I love, you know, just the whole conversation of art. As a musician, you know, I'm a kind of an artsy person anyhow, so by nature. But if you're just not joining, I am Eugene, the founder and owner of Enda's Boutique. We are an African American owned bookstore here in Duncanville, Texas, which is in the heart of Dallas. And so I have with me Mr. Charles Moore, who is in New York, and he is a person that talks about the importance of Black arts in the African American community. And so, you know, for those who just now didn't see the first video, tell them a little bit about your history before we wrap everything up. Because you've lived out the country, you've done some all, you speak another language. Give them history
Yeah,
about who you
so
are.
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Mhm.
Went to Cass Tech High School. From there, I moved a little bit up north to East Lansing, Michigan, and went to Michigan State. I moved to New York in 2005, where I worked on Wall Street, which was a dream of mine. Did it, hated it, but you know,
But you did it.
I'm one of those people that when I have a dream, I go after it. So I dreamed of working on Wall Street, and I was lucky enough to be able to do it. 2005, I moved to New York City. 2008, I started an MBA. Moved to Italy in 2009. Lived there for 3 years. I speak fluent Italian. I traveled all over Europe while I was there. Um, I saw a lot of art. It was amazing, and just to go see these old churches and these old,
Mhm.
paintings from 500 years ago. These Michelangelo sculptures that I only saw in books. These Caravaggio paintings, who I think is the greatest painter ever to walk this earth. You know, no disrespect to anyone else, but that guy was something different. Um, and then I came back to New York City and continued to work in finance. I started collecting art in 2012 on a trip to Boston, where I had just finished watching the documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's a great documentary about Shepard Fairey, Mr. Brainwash, and Banksy. Um, Many of you might know Shepard Fairey from the Obama campaign in 2008.
Right.
The Hope poster was created by Shepard Fairey. Um, And I started collecting in 2012, and just I took off like a rocket ship. I was on a buying frenzy for the next 3 or 4 years, but then I sort of changed the direction of how I collect it when I met an art advisor in 2017. I really was buying a lot of, pop art and street art and things like that. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I was introduced to the world of fine art at that time. And I started to acquire works from, classically trained Black artists, but not just Black artists. I have white artists in my collection, Latino artists in my collection, but I'm really, I would say, the last dozen works I bought were all by Black artists,
Right.
and I really like the fact that we're in this period in which I think Black artists are rock stars right now. And if you Google art, if you look at ArtNet, you look at artsy.com, and you look at some of these art publications, we're on the cover of magazines, which never happened before.
Right.
Artists are starting residencies, which never happened before because they didn't have the money. We are building. We are on boards at museums. I just interviewed
Notice that.
Ray McGuire, who's running for New York City mayor. He's on the board of the Whitney Museum. He's been on that board for a couple decades too, and he's been collecting for almost 50 years. And and so I think we're just in this moment that it's such a joyous occasion, because I wasn't around to understand when I talked to a Howardina Pendell, and she tells me stories about how she was a double issue. She was Black and a woman.
Right.
And so, for a long time, women weren't really displayed in museums as much as men, and they still are not. But then she was also Black, so then now she had that also, and just and you're talking about someone who has the highest level of education as an artist. That she's a BFA from Boston University, an MFA from Yale University. She did the Studio Museum of Harlem residency. She worked at the MoMA, and she's still subjected to racism and sexism.
Sexism, right. So she dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's,
and is a brilliant artist, right. You can do all that and still your work not be great. So like, just because you went to great schools doesn't mean your work is great. And just because you're Black doesn't mean your work is great,
Right.
But she went to, like you said, dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and her work is brilliant. Right. And still was subjected to that. And just to like, sit down with her and listen to those stories, I thought, this is priceless. But now she's like a star artist, and she's really like coming to fame and all sorts of awards and accolades and solo shows, and the money is there, and but I think it's great that you have these artists that are in their 20s and they're making lots of money with their art, and they're able to like not worry about going to work at Starbucks just so they can pay their rent, and they try to make art when they get off work. They still need that space to be creative and think and experience. And I think we're in this joyous moment where these artists are having these opportunities, and I think we have to merge that with the Black collector so we can be along for this journey,
exactly,
part of the conversation, and have these relationships with today's Basquiat.
Right. So now you told everyone that you speak fluent Italian, so I can't let you get off without saying something. I'm not going to ask you to say something. I'm going to let you choose something fluent so people can hear you speak that Italian language.
Le cose per me la cosa più più bello è che ho fatto anche il libro anche in italiano. E quindi il Black Market, il libro che ho scritto, e ho tradotto anche in italiano, esci tra un po', 28 febbraio, esci anche il libro in italiano.
What did you say?
I said, the most beautiful thing is the opportunity to use my Italian with my work. And I just translated the book from English to Italian, and it's being published in Italian in 3 days.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
what I'm talking about. It's
yeah.
a brother speaking Italian, and he's speaking English to me, of course. But you know, we always tell people if someone speaks a foreign language, let them interpret as well. So you don't want to have a foreign language and nobody knows what he's saying. I love it. I appreciate you, Charles, for spending time with me on art and educating the sister in Dallas, Texas, and holding me accountable. I am just so elated to reintroduce myself to this world and to be a better contributor towards those who slave over their work and put our faces in many places on canvases and all those types of things. So again, my name is Jean, the owner of Enda's Boutique. I have Charles Moore. We are doing a series, and so he's committed to let me have him for an hour at least, the last Thursday of the month. We did it last week. We're doing it this week. We're going to do it last month. We did it this month. We're doing it next month. And we'll probably do some more months as well because it's that important. And one of the things after talking, I'm definitely going to make sure I have a link on my website to support Black art and to get us more connected into Black art so we can start talking about who they are, give them some love. And to my sisters that was in the struggle and you didn't have a platform, you know, this is a Black-owned bookstore by an African-American female for African-American women, about African-American women. So trust you me, by the time Charles and I get back together next month, and it's a month that we're going to celebrate women, we're going to definitely make sure we show mad love to the sisters from a historical perspective who contributed towards the world of art, and to our sisters who are doing an amazing job in the present time as well. So again,
I'm try to get a couple females to come
yes,
next month.
Yes.
I'm very excited to continue to be here. I love to, you know, support Black-owned businesses, and you know, my thing was, you know, I don't want to pat myself on the back and say how beautiful I think the book is, but I think the stuff in the book is very important.
It is.
And what was important to me is that it is in the hands of the Black community. So we're the ones benefiting from this knowledge and begin to be more involved and part of the conversation of
Right.
of collecting and promoting Black ownership.
Right. Yes, I love it. And his book is here. So listen, everyone, those who are in my book club, you need to come get this book. And of course, if you're not here, we can get it out to you. Charles, give them your website.
It's charlessmoore.com. I have such a common name. I was unable to get charlesmoore.com. So it's charlessmoore.com. But I recommend you, if you go to my website, just go there to, you know, learn more about me, but then, you know, go to Enda's bookshop to buy the book.
Yeah.
You know, because we should continue to support Black-owned businesses, and let's not talk about it. Let's be about it.
Be about it. Exactly. I love that. And follow him. He has he's on Instagram. Give them all of your social media handles.
My Instagram, that's what I use the most is Instagram. I'm on the other platforms, but I'm not on them like that. But my Instagram is Champagne and Vitamins.
I love it.
Champagne and vitamins.
I love it. I love the champagne and vitamins, OM to the G. Okay, real quick, then I'm gonna let you go. How did you come up with that?
It's funny because I just had a coffee meeting with someone from Italy this morning, and she said the same thing. She said, I'm not leaving until you tell me how do you come up with that name. And so I was on I was on a what I called my 40th birthday trip,
Mhm.
and I always wanted to go see the Grand Prix race Formula One in Monaco because
Okay.
that's like the biggest, the most important one, the most famous one. And it's not on my birthday, which is in August, but I said this is going to be my birthday trip. And we're like 50 Cent was performing, and we were in like the race had already happened. We're like pre-gaming and in the hotel room about to go out, and we're drinking a little champagne. And I just thought, oh man, I didn't take my vitamins this morning. So I popped a vitamin and drunk, a sip of champagne, and they looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, champagne and vitamins." And then that's how
That's how I started.
that,
I
that's
love
how
it.
it happened.
So now you're gonna have to create a book that's titled Champagne and Vitamins. Yeah, to go with that. I
That
love
was
it.
great. Yeah.
Everyone, this is E. Jean, and I'm with Charles Moore. We're talking about Black arts. And so I do want to say this before I let us move on. And if you are a Black artist and you want your work in our bookstore, reach out to me, whether you're local for wherever you're located. Go to our website, endasbookttique.com. There you can contact us via email, give us a call. I would love to show some love to you as a Black artist. Next month is Women's Month, so we definitely want to do a huge campaign celebrating and saluting women, Black women, period, who are artists, and you're doing an amazing job. So we definitely want to give you that type of love. So I am saying this now live, and I'm going to post it and market it and campaign. And, our goal is to be able to do that. So I look forward to the women who are going to join us next month and allow us to be able to give you a place to give your voice and talk about your experience as a woman who is an artist, African-American woman who's an artist, and share with us some of the work that you're doing and how we can be of support to you. And to all of you who are in your community, I encourage you to find out what museums are in your neighborhood. Take your child to the local museums, okay? Make that happen. Make that a fun date. Find out, you have to now probably for most museums, schedule that. You probably can't just show up now because of COVID-19. But there are some that are open now. Some are have different hours. So just make a phone call, find out what it takes to get it done. And if they're open and accepting visitors, make that a plan, make that happen. That's a great investment. Okay. So invest in that, just like we invest in other things. Okay. Hair, nails, stuff like that. This and to the bras, whatever you invest in, hats and clothes, everybody, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, let's invest in our community and take our children to our local museums. All right, Charles, we're in 4 more weeks. We'll be back together again. Have fun with your doctorate, working on that, preparing to get to the ABD status. Happy all of that, and good luck with that. I know you're doing an amazing job, and much love to you, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you for
All
having
right. All right. Hold tight. Y'all have a good day, and make sure you join us. Again, go to our website. It is www.endasbookttique.com.